Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at our Unit 3A review. Again, my bad sending this out so late, guys. My daughter's gymnastics ran a little bit late here, but I promised I'd get it out to you guys today, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, so first off, let's look at the layout here. So this is similar to what you can expect on a test. Some other stuff we've seen in class today was a little bit different, but it was nicely broken up here. So let's look at numbers 1 through 4 first. Okay, so looking at angles 2 and 4, first thing I'm going to do, and suggest you guys do the same, is let's highlight the transversal here. So we can see that L and M are parallel lines, so that transversal is going to be right here. So I'm just going to mark that in red so you can see it. So we're going to use that as our reference point here. Color. Okay, so for our first thing here, we are looking for, we have lines 2 and 4. So we're going 2 and 4, 1 and 8, 3 and 5. Okay, so for 2 and 4, we are looking here and here. Now, if we look at our options here, okay, well, they're not on alternate sides, so we can eliminate that red transversal, so we can eliminate choices A and B. They're not both interior, because they're not both between lines L and M, so therefore, our choice, linear pair, they're right next to each other, and they add up to 180. Next one, 1 and 8. So let's see what we got here. Oops. So we're on 1 and 8. Okay, well, we know we have alternate because we're on, one's on the left, one's on the right there, or that parallel, or not the parallel, the transversal there. So we have one on the left and one on the right side of that line. So we're on alternate. And we can see they're exterior because they're both outside of those parallel lines. So that's going to be alternate exterior. 3 and 5, okay. Well, let's see what we got here. We know we're on the same side. So that eliminates our alternate choice. And we're interior because we're between those parallel lines. So that's going to be our same side interior. Moving on to number 4, process of elimination here, but let's go ahead and talk about it a bit. So 4 and 5, we see they're on alternate sides because one's on the left, one's on the right. And they're interior because they're between those parallel lines. So that's going to be choice A, alternate interior. On to our next part here, we have 6 and 7. Okay, so looking at our choices, let me scroll down a bit here so we can see. Okay, so 6 and 7, those are going to be our vertical angles because they meet at a intersection. So they meet at the intersection of that transversal and line M, and then they're across from one another. So that's how we're going to go ahead and identify that as our vertical angles. 4 and 8. If we're looking at 4 and 8, so let's erase what we have there. So 4 and 8. Now, we got rid of vertical, so let's think here. Now, complementary would mean they add up to 90. Those definitely don't add up to 90. It's not the transversal, and they're definitely not adjacent because they're not next to each other. So the corresponding is one inside, one outside. So we're in between, and we're outside the parallels, and we're on the same side. So one inside, one outside, and they're on the same side. That's how we go ahead and identify our corresponding angles. So one inside, one outside, that's corresponding when they're on the same side. Next, we have a line that cuts through parallel lines. Well, that's our definition there of transversal, so D. Angles that are next to each other, we talked about that in class. Adjacent. And angles that add up to 90, that's our definition of complementary. Moving down here. Now let's take a look at number 10. Okay, so for number 10, let's take a look here. So we want to find DF. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight what it is I want to find. So I want to find, at some point, this length. So I'm just going to go ahead and label that DF. Now, we know it's at least 2, right? Because we see that EF is 2. So the first thing we're going to use is go with the bottom-up technique here. So if we start at the bottom, we see that from E to G is 8. That's what this bottom label here means. So if I know that this portion, EG, is 8, and that EF is 2, well, I could definitely figure out that this part here, by doing 8 minus 2, is 6. So from F to G is 6. Now, using a little more logic, we know that the whole line DG from here to here is 19. So let's say that I called this X, right? So from D to E, we're just going to call it X. I know that X plus 2 plus 6, so all three parts of the line DG is equal to the whole thing of 19. Solving this, we'd add here and get 8, subtract it over and get 11. So now I know that DE is actually going to be 11. So to get my final answer here, I would just go ahead, add 11 and 2 to get the total length of DF. We would find that our answer for that of DF is 13. Looking over here at number 11, so we're still trying to find that DF just on a different diagram. Let's go ahead and label that as our goal, right? Put a star by it, whatever you want to do. So this one looks a little different, but it's actually not going to be a whole lot more challenging for us. So if I'm looking here, DF is involving DE and EF. So let's go ahead and take a look here. We know that the whole thing is 22, and I know that this portion is 10. So I can actually go ahead and find EF, if we call that our X here, just by doing 22 minus 10. So if I do 22 minus 10, that gives me 12. Through some adding here, we could find that DF is going to be equal to 15, because 12 plus 3 is equal to 15 for the length of DF. Alright, moving on. Okay, so we got suppose B is between A and C. Just stay in alphabetical here. We usually go ahead and put A on the left, C on the right. But if you put them the other way, it's going to be fine. Okay, so we know that AC, that's 92. AB is 3x minus 7. And, whoa, I don't know where those came from. And that BC is 8x. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Alright. So segment addition, right? So if we do AB plus BC, they equal the whole thing. So we can go ahead and set up our equation here. 3x minus 7. Sorry about these weird, obscure lines, guys. Don't know why those are coming up. Then I'm going to add on our 8x here and set it equal to the whole thing of 92. Alright, this is really obscure. Alright, taking a look at our next part here. So we combine our like terms here. We have 11x minus 7. It's equal to 92. We could add that 7 to both sides, divide by 11, and I'll end up with x is equal to 9. So that's our x. And to find these other parts, so we're just going to plug in. So we know AB is 3x minus 7. So if I plug in my 9, for the x here, well, 3 times 9 is 27, minus 7 gives me 20. For BC, I'm going to plug in here. Okay, so we got 8 times 7, that's 72. And we're good to go. Okay, so these ones, it says find the value of x. So if I'm looking here at 13, I see that I have a pair of vertical angles because they're at where these lines intersect. Alright, and they're across from one another. So those are vertical. When they have vertical angles, we just set them equal. Subtracting 2 from each side. If I divide both of these sides then by 4, we will get x is equal to 16. Over here we see that nice right angle mark, so we know we have complementary angles. So complementary adds up to 90, so I can do 10 plus x plus 60 is equal to 90. Combining like terms. Oops, 70. Subtracting 70 from both sides will give me x is equal to 20. Alright, this should look really similar to what we did on the board that day in class here, so let's add some things up, right? So I got ABC, so my big angle here is 168. And again, your labeling may look different than mine. ABS is 3x plus 17. And then SBC is 9x plus 7. So from what we know if we add the two parts, they'll give us the whole. So it doesn't matter what order you add these in, as long as they're on the correct side. So 3x plus 17 So I'm talking here, if you put the 9x plus 7 first, you'll get to the same spot. The key idea is that the larger angle that is created by the smaller two has its own side. So combining here, 12x plus 24, subtracting 24 from both sides, dividing by 12, we'll get x is equal to 12. And lastly, here we got to make sure we do our problem right, so we don't just always find x, because it wants us to find the measure of ABS. So we know that ABS is equal to 3x plus 17. So the measure of angle ABS is equal to 3 times 12 plus 17. So 3 times 12 is 36. 36 plus 17 gives us 53. So that would be our answer there. Okay? Alright. Okay, so in these it says classify the angles as alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side interior, corresponding or vertical angles, and then solve for x. So two-part problem. So first, if I'm looking at this one, what I'm going to do right now is just highlight our transversals. I suggest you would do the same. So let's go ahead and do a transversal here. This one's here. So notice the parallel lines are identified with those little red triangles on them, so such as here or here. So again, just making sure we know which ones are transversal, because that's what indicates our relationships here. Or at least it's a big part of it. Yeah, that was it for those. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, so first step. We're on alternate sides, correct? I say I have one on the left, one on the right. I also notice I'm exterior because I'm on the outside of those parallel lines. So our relationship here, alternate, exterior. We also know that when we have alternate here, we just set them equal. So I have 18x minus 3, 17x plus 3. So a little bit of solving here. I could subtract, and I'd just get x or 1x. Then I'd add 3 over here, and I'd end up with x is equal to 6. So we'd add 3 to the right, subtract 17 to the left. Good there. Looking over here. Now, we're given a 90-degree angle here, so I'm going to go ahead and label that as 90. Now, I see I'm on the left and the right side, right? So that's alternate. And they're interior because we're between those parallel lines. So similarly, with alternate interior or exterior, we set them equal because they're congruent angles. Subtracting, dividing, and we get our answer. Over here, first step we notice is we are definitely not on alternate sides. They're both on the left. So these are on the same side, and they're interior because they're between those lines. So we would label this as same side and interior. Again, I'm abbreviating, but on the test, please either use the same abbreviations as me or write the whole thing out. So these angles, when we're on the same side and interior, they add up to 180. It's another way of forming a linear pair. So combining, we get 23x minus 4, because we're on the same side, so we just combine. So I would have done 16 plus 7 to get 23x, and then negative 8 plus 4 to get negative or a minus 4. Adding 4 to the other side here gives me 184. Dividing both sides by 23 will give us x is equal to 8. Last one for this page here. So we have, on this side, we're on the same side. Okay, so they're not alternate. They're not both interior, so that gives us our corresponding. So one inside and one outside on the same side. So that gives our corresponding. Corresponding, we get it. These are congruent, so I could take them and set them equal. Subtracting. Now remember, angle measures aren't going to be negative in this unit, but our x's can be. So if I subtract 12 from both sides, I'll end up with negative 7. Okay, I think we're on our last page here. Alright. Keep it nice and short for you guys. Okay, so for 20, we have angle G and angle H are complementary. Okay, so I know complementary, that means something with an equal to 90. Hint, supplementary means equal to 180. So remember, if you see supplementary, that means they add up to 180. So again, keeping both those terms in mind, we might need them, I don't know. If if a measure of angle G is equal to 6x minus 15, and measure of angle H is 3x plus 6, find measure of angle H. Okay, so they're complementary. That means if I add them together, I know I can set it equal to 90. So if we combine our like terms here, I'd get 9x minus 9, because negative 15 plus 6 would be negative 9. I could set that equal to 9. 90. Wow, I don't want to hit another 9 there. Okay, careful with your handwriting. So, if I add 9 to both sides, that gives me 9x is equal to 99. Dividing gives me x is equal to 11. So making sure we're looking at what we're answering here, I want angle H. So angle H is 3x plus 6. So if I plug in that 11, that would give me 33 plus 6, which is going to be 39 degrees. Okay, we'll talk about angles. It's useful to include the degree symbol. Okay, here we have angle A and B are vertical angles. So vertical, I know that those are congruent, so we're going to set those equal to each other. So if I take A and set it equal to B, we can go ahead and solve to find that measure of angle A. So I'm going to subtract my 5x over. And again, you can go the other way as well, but this way just gave me a nice positive x or 1x. And then add 11 to both sides. So I get x is equal to 23. So if we go ahead now and plug back in to get A, so that would be 5 times 23 plus 12. Okay, so we have 5 times 23. That's 5 times 20. That gives me 100. Plus 5 times 3 is 15, so it's 115. 115 plus 112, or sorry, just 12, we get 127. So our answer here for the measure of angle A is 127. Using a calculator is also acceptable. Okay, told you supplementary would come up here, right? So C and D are supplementary. We're going to find both, right? So supplementary, that means they add, and we set it equal to 180, right? So let's take those together here. So 4x plus 41 plus D of 2x plus 31, and set it equal to our 180. So combining, if we go ahead and subtract that 72 over, if we want to divide here, okay, let's see. Be 10 plus 8, so it's going to give me x is equal to 18. Sorry, so we'll wait a minute, guys, and be honest, I'm going to check that one real quick. So 108 divided by 6, 18. Fantastic. I can still divide in my head. And yes, I did use my phone calculator like a teenager. And like all of you. Alright. Point being, we're good at 18. Alright, so let's go ahead and plug in here. So measure of angle C. So for C, we're going to plug back in here. We got 4 times 18 plus 41. So this is for C. Okay, so we got 4 times 18, that's 40, plus 32, that gives me 72. And I add these together, that gives me 113 degrees. Right, because that gives me 110. Good. Moving on to the next one here for D. We have 2 times 18 plus 31. So 2 times 18, that gives me 36. 36 plus 31 gives us 67. So for C, we had 113. And here we are at 67. Alright, under 20 minutes, not bad, huh? Alright, study up, guys. We're all going to ace this test on Friday.